Build a huge factory, right? So big, 4 big buildings. Put all the money in.
500
millions of dollars. If you would like, we can start clapping.
Yeah. You know, it's kind of funny.
I started in 2006, and that's when we met.
I started 2004, 2 years after my graduation. I wanted to go to US. Some reason I couldn't go. My sister got a factory, furniture factory, and that's the kind of the time they also started. So it kind of need my help.
They only started in 2004, right?
Like a year before I came in, yeah.
They never did furniture before. Neither Sam, which is your sister, or her husband. So that was like a brand new for them, right?
Yeah, brand new.
And right from the beginning, they invested like a lot, right? They didn't run any trials. They didn't do anything. They just like, let's go on full on and build a huge factory, right?
Probably the man, my brother-in-law, he's kind of a businessman, but yeah, he got a friends, relative who doing furniture factory. So he's kind of look at that as like potential business for him. So the friends help him, like some orders like with current customer.
I find it very common in Vietnam, right? Like you start a factory and then you go around, like the factories go around and they say, look, I have a capacity, can you help me out with some orders? And then,
that's a lot, yeah.
And then some people just help, right? Like, okay, I'm busy now, can you do this, can you make
even
that?
Now, like I have many relationship with the guy from the top guy, bosses or technicians guys or whatever. They just kind of quit the company and they open their own business, factories. They bring me, tell me, can you help me, give some orders, something like that. It's kind of funny. They don't know, exactly what they need to do at the beginning. They're just trying to take advantage of relationship, what they have.
Yeah, it's strange, right? Like before you go and invest, I don't know how much, like hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars, right?
Yeah, there's going to be different
like
scale.
Usually in Western world, right, the common sense that you have a business plan.
Yeah.
Right? So you calculate, I'll have this many customers, I'm targeting this market, so that's why I need such a big factory. Right? But like in Vietnam, it doesn't work this way. They just like, I have money and I go and just invest, put all the money in.
Because I'm Vietnamese, I kind of understand in Vietnamese word, it's kind of saying that, it's kind of we do this step and we do next step. It's not kind of business plan, at beginning. They just do step by step, and they believe that it's going to be happen.
And just believe based on what?
They believe that they, thinking about the luck as well, That's why they, in common sense business, it's kind of it's not a correct way. That's just very normal.
Yeah.
With Vietnamese people, yeah.
It was a big investment, right? Because
that's a decent investment.
The factory is big, so they just invested, and then they followed the same way. They started to go around asking for.
At least they invest decent money. So they got a big land, they got a factory, office, showroom. My brother-in-law, he invested in the factory.
Yeah.
But he have like some relative who run the factory for him at beginning. But some reason they broke up, and then my sister get in, and asked me as well. And running the factory, even until now, it's not an easy job. At that time, it's around 100 something workers. Until now, they have like 500.
Now it's 500.
Yeah, something like that. That's a big growth, and they have also grown by investing different factories in different areas as well.
And do you remember that time, like when she approached you, and how she approached you, and what you were thinking, and how you made the decision?
I didn't choose this job, this business direction.
This business chose you.
Yeah, it's kind of, it chose me, because I couldn't go abroad to study further for my IT, direction. So I just work with her. You
started to be like in charge of the customer service, or what were you doing exactly? From what I remember, you were doing kind of everything.
Everything. The guy who know me through Bao Hưng, so I got a customer. He sometimes I give him this name card. Sometimes I give him not the name card. So he didn't know what I'm doing in the factory, in the company. because I can be like a planning manager. I can be, I can do sales who working with the customers, dealing with the customers, solve problem with the customer. Not I'm doing everything, but I'm in charge of kind of running the factory. The key of success of factory, one of the keys, you do a good planning.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, the planning is the key.
So that's why I started from there first.
You started with the planning.
Planning. I have a few guys help me, do like order that, order sourcing that, or different things. But I'm gonna watch them and tell them what to do, and go and follow. In planning, that's the thing is people, they, for example, they want to outsource some components. They just order to their subcontractor, and that's it. They believe that can happen, but not happen that way. You need to follow them. You need to, go there and watch what happening, and maybe you can, help or support them to make things happen in time or something like that. Good plan is one of the best, key
for the successful production.
Yeah. Even you do it by, like very traditional way, or you're in technology way. You need to have a good plan.
So, and then from what you said, you do a good planning, but it's not enough. You have to have a team of people who will go and work with your subcontractors. Paint suppliers, right? Timber suppliers, hardware
like
suppliers.
We producing furniture, but like for example, chair, they have wood there, they have plywood, they have hardwares, different things.
Yeah.
So the guy who order plywood, we don't produce plywood, so we need to outsource that one. But to complete the products in time or in a good quality way, we have 10 components there. That one component get wrong, everything will be ruined. That's why I was trying to do the planning, a good plan. But with the customer also, you need to have a good plan with them. It's kind of doing like trying to do like first in, first out, which is like you need to have the good queue, with the orders. The orders. You give me the order first, I need to respect your orders. A lot of manufacturers, after I did job in my factory, in my family factory, and I do training job now.
Yeah.
I see that they just take the orders. They know that they couldn't do it in time. They couldn't do what we asked, but they just take the order first. That's the first thing. Second thing is they just mess up with the orders.
You mean the planning?
The planning.
So they don't follow first in, first out. They just whatever. And like how do they? What's their mentality and what's their thinking behind it? They just take all the orders, like, oh, I need more orders, I take it, right?
First, why they want to take order, even they don't know that they don't do well, because they want the orders.
Yeah.
That's one of the big pressure for the factory. You always need to have the order to keep it. Many people
to keep it going.
Going, yeah. Second thing, be why they're changing or messing their order planning, because I see that first is they don't have people in the factory who do good planning for them, or they have second thing I can see that they see, look at the order, that order going to be easy, and another order, even another order already come first. So they want to do something easier, or they want to do that order because that payment first go first. Or even some factory I see that the boss, the people in the working office do planning, but the guy in the factories, who they change, they change themselves. So for example, some factory they pay workers by salary monthly, or they pay worker by the volume they're doing.
Ah, okay. So some factories still do that.
Yeah, they do that. Yeah. So the worker who say they know that the planning from the office you need to do the order A first, B after. But they know B is gonna have more volume,
so they can earn more.
Earn more quicker. So they change themselves.
And that's not the factory owner. That's the
that's the thing I tell you.
That's the factory, right?
Inside the factory.
Inside the factory, yeah, the manager, like the planning manager, whoever, right?
So they, again, it could be from the owner or the guy who do planning. Couldn't do well, or the workers themselves.
And how long did it take you, like, to go from a zero to understanding something? Now, clearly now you know a lot more, but what was the high tempo learning process? And because it goes like this, and then kind of after a certain point you're kind of reaching this level where you're still growing, but not as intensively.
3 to 5 years. Yeah,
I would say the same for me. And lucky enough, like I said, I had good teachers as Brad showing me direction with how to build the furniture, how to check if the factory is doing the right thing, how to look at the details, at the technical side, where they should use modus intended and not doubles, right? But then it's kind of a risk when people work with Asia, right? And then that's the beauty of having the third party who they can rely on and who's got experience, right? And if anything goes wrong, that third party, such as now, you and us, because you're in the same business model as me, right? That we'll be taking the responsibility, both financial and also the knowledge. And I would say the same, like for me it took about 2 to 4 years to understand how to check quality properly of doing that work intensively, like almost every day. It takes time, and unfortunately, even if you go to the university, they won't teach you, or if they teach you and you go there, you still need to go through practice.
That's the point that we kind of understand enough. Not well, but enough.
Just like 3-5 years is just to understand enough. How did the factory actually grow? What was the keys? Because again, like in the Western world, you have like a set of different tools, right? You have to do marketing, you have to do sales, you have to do this, you have to do that in order to get the clients and to grow. From what I see in Vietnam, it works a different way. If you really have a good, well-organized factory set up, people will just come to you.
For my family factory, we do very traditional way. Let's say we have Vietnam show. We got a booth there, and then we show products there like everybody else do. And the customer come in and see the products, and we talk, this and that. So we can finalize the order at that time. The customer wonder, go back to the factory, see what we're doing, what we cover off, and we can, build a relationship from there. And up till now, that's also it still works, all right?
Yeah.
It still works, but it's kind of changed a little bit. For family company, it still apply that method. And like you said, another thing is like if we do good job, a proper job for our production jobs, producing products. So sometimes, companies just come in. It's coming.
Yeah, just introduction, right? Like this
it's
guy.
Kind of you build your brand.
You build a name.
Build a name. In many hundreds of factories, they know that factory that what they good at, and what they good at in terms of products, in terms of wood, in terms of construction, in terms of market. Like they're strong at Japan or U.S. market, for example. They're strong at wood, oak and walnut.
So and then once you build a name, or if you build a name, how does it happen later? You will get the income of orders from your existing clients. That's number one, right? Your existing clients would recommend other clients. Does it ever happen?
Normally the clients don't introduce another clients.
Yeah, because they want to keep the production for themselves, right? There's kind of a strong.
That's kind of the basic of the business.
Yeah.
It's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, sure.
Just you have a brand. You go to the show, you got a new customer, or you have existing customer. You develop from there.
I also remember you went to High Point show.
Yeah, man.
You exhibited there, right?
I went to Malaysia show, which is I mentioned here is the show where I take the products there and do promoting, marketing, in Europe, in Germany.
You actually went there?
Yeah, and then in the US in High Point. That's what I learned, because the first time I went to the High Point show, seen there, many products there, and I have some around me. I have also different exhibitor. Who also the local guy like in US. We talk, and then he told me that instead of you sitting here waiting for customer come in and talk to you, you better go around the show
and tell them that you are the factory
and talk to them, try to promote to them.
And the journey after, you went into American market or what markets?
Europe and American.
Europe and
American market.
How do you find the quality in Europe and America?
Again, like from beginning, we did a lot of Korean products. Orders. So we moved to Australia.
Yeah.
So kind of, and then we started around with, and then we do for Europe, like Germany, Holland market, and US market. Different products. Different construction, different finishing, packing, something like that. But you know, when you have the base, good base, you can do different things for different markets. You know, and after that, there's no level for the factory. They moved to Japan.
And that was a big jump, right?
Because I didn't say that. I don't say that. This means that Japan is like much more high than like Europe, US market, but they kind of read details,
Paying attention to the details.
Yeah, the details. The basics of working with Japanese people, customer is pretty hard to pull them, to the company, get them orders. But once they order, it's going to be stable.
So, but then, it's very difficult to
get them started with you.
To get them started with you, but once they start, then they just committed.
The factory right now, they still do a lot of Japanese market orders, Japan market, and also like US, Canada. The
Japanese market was a turning point where it allowed the factory to grow big time. This was one of the turning points where it just started to grow financially and everything. Because Japanese market, from my understanding, how I understand it, they have very high requirements on the product. It has to be clean, spotless, no dents, nothing, right? It needs to be almost ideal. But then they're also ready to pay money, and they require different materials such as walnut and oak and grade 1, which is expensive, right? And they're happy to pay for it. So basically, with the same setup, the same number of workers, which obviously you need to educate and get to that level, you processing higher value timber products, and that's why the factory can make more. Is it correct?
Correct, man. Sometimes it's not like our direction, also luck there.
Yeah, destiny.
Destiny there, because the labor cost keep increasing. One of the best way, the most efficient way for you to survive in this business is you do the same thing, but more valuable thing,
you're leveling up.
Like you said that we do some before. We do rubber wood, we do acacia.
Yeah.
And then we do for example, same chair, same table. We did an oak in walnut, which is bringing the pricing, the product more valuable. And the labor cost is still the same, which is the turnover of the company gets much more higher. And we used same amount of workers, even less, because we have two ways. We pick up the products. It's kind of nice and valuable wood, but easy finishing. It's kind of your face, you got a good face. You don't need to do a lot of makeup there. It's exactly like happened with oak and walnut.
Yeah.
It's most of the thing from wood like that. We just do natural finishing, which is we don't need to do a lot of steps, not a lot of finishing involved.
So, okay, my dear friend, thank you very much for coming, for the interview podcast, for the talk,
yes.
for sharing your experience. You're my first guest, and thank you very much, man.
Thank you for inviting me, having me today, talking about what we've been doing, from the past and up to now. Thank you again, man.
Thank you.
Thank you.